And so the theory goes basically, so there were three parts to the conspiracy theory. So one is they had the production facility right there, right where all these musicians showed up. Two is the musicians, like a very large percentage of these young musicians, were sons and daughters of senior U.S. military and intelligence officials.
Including Morrison.
Including Jim Morrison, whose father was the head of naval operations for the Vietnam War at the time. And there were these other, I forget which ones, but there were these other musicians at the time where their parents were like senior in like military, like psychological operations. And like that's all real, like that's all documented. And then third is the head of the Rand Corporation, who was one of the inspirations for the Dr. Strangelove character in the movie. So he was the guy doing all the nuclear planning for nuclear war. He lived right in the heart of the hippies in Laurel Canyon.
Whoa.
In this famous house that's still there. And so the theory basically goes that the anti-war movement before the hippies was basically a square movement. It was all these basically young people, very clean cut. The men were all wearing, if you look at old like Vietnam War protests, like everybody's all like dressed up like they're going to a business meeting. It was like, and it was developing into a real threat. And so the theory is the hippie movement and rock and roll and the drug culture of the 60s was developed in order to basically sabotage the anti-war movement.
Wow.
Right. And which basically is what happened, right? Because then what happened is the anti-war movement became associated with the hippies, and that caused Americans to decide what side they were on, and then that led to Nixon being elected twice.
Which was also a part of chaos, because that was the idea behind the Manson family and funneling acid to them. The facility was equipped with a soundstage, screening rooms, film storage vaults, and naturally a bomb shelter. During its 22 years of operation, Lookout Mountain Laboratory produced approximately 6,500 classified films for the Department of Defense and the Atomic Energy Commission, documenting nuclear test series such as Operation Greenhouse, Operation Teapot, and Operation Buster Jangle.
So one of the conspiracy theories. Okay, here's another conspiracy theory. You've seen all the grainy footage of nuclear test blasts that with the mushroom clouds, and there are always these grainy things, and there's all these like little houses lined up and these little trees lined up, and it blows everything down. Well, there's always been a conspiracy theory that those were all basically fabricated at this facility, that those bombs actually were never detonated. And that basically the U.S. military was basically faking these bomb tests to freak out the Russians, to make us think that we had weapons. We had basically a potency to our nuclear weapon arsenal that we actually didn't have at the time.
How did they fake it?
They just did. Yeah, exactly.
So this is
exactly.
it?
Well, so there's a Okay, so here's a question, right? So what happened? Okay, so this is great. Okay, you'll love this. So what happened to the camera?
You son of a bitch. You son of a bitch.
How is that happening yet the camera is like totally stable and fine?
Oh my God.
And by the way, and the film is fine. The radiation didn't cause any damage to the film.
Oh my God.
This looks like how you shoot a
and by the way,
miniature,
okay, we'll do this one. We'll do the loop one more time here. Let's see the car.
The
Where's
car's
the car?
right behind the house. It just showed up.
Oh,
Also.
it just showed up.
So wait a minute. First of
It
all,
wasn't there.
First of all, where'd the car
No
come
car.
from?
Yeah.
No car.
Second is, does it really look like
Car.
does that look like a real car?
That's insane.
And look at the and look at when the house blows. Look at the wood. Does that look like those are full size giant lumber beams as they go flying? Yeah.
That's hard to say.
Is that a house or is that like is that a 12-inch scale model?
What?
Right. So like
the fucking car.
Anyway, I don't know. Like I have no idea. Having said that, if that was fake, it was faked at Lookout Mountain.
Wow.
Right, at the exact same place and time.
But did they have the kind of special effects to do something like that in the 40s?
Well, so the full conspiracy theory is it was Stanley Kubrick, which again I have no idea.
Boy, that does look fake.
Because also the camera didn't move at all either.
You know what it looks like? Go back to that real quick. It looks like the smoke is too big. Watch when it hits. Like the volume, like the size of it, it looks small.
I mean,
you know what I'm saying? I mean, it looks like we're looking at something that's like a few inches tall.
Well, so if you watch like making of Star Wars, any of the any movies before CGI, whenever they do anything like that, it's always with these tiny models.
Yes.
And they just basically what they do is they slow it down and then they add sound.
Yeah, this looks fake as shit.
Right.
The clouds just don't look realistic.
Right.
Like it looks like they're too big and they move too quickly back and forth.
Let's get another one. It's like, okay, what the camera's fine.
That's hilarious.
Oh, here's a good one. Yeah, here we go. Okay, there maybe the camera got. Okay, but even still, the camera got knocked over and not destroyed.
Is there a like some sort of a response to that? Have they come with some sort of an explanation?
Not that I know of.
That seems so vague.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, who can tell?
Does that make you wonder about other things?
Well, I mean, it's like in our time, right? It's like how much stuff do you read in the news where you're like, okay, I know that's not true.
Right.
And then you're like, okay, everything I read in the history books, like I was told it was true. It's like, yeah.
It was definitely that one though was really weirdly compelling.
There's another video of them setting up these houses, which I mean, I guess you could make after the fact and say, this is fake, but this is here them setting it up.
Yeah. You just do the
real size houses.
Do the sleight of hand.
Huh.
I don't know. I assume this is all. I assume this is all not true, but it is fun to think about.
Why would you assume it's not true? The camera alone, like this alone, like yeah, where is the fucking
I'll look
camera?
up what
Where's
they said
that
about
camera?
the camera? Because they have to have an explanation. Someone must have asked them at some point.
Or nobody asked.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, it might be one of those. Wow, look what they